Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host Matt. Hey Matt,
Hey, Kat. Hey, everyone. How are you?
here we are, season 13.
Yeah, I'm not going to question whether it is season 13 because I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, and I thought you were going to say you're not going to question if it's going to be a good or bad season because 13 it's one of those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, it's lucky 13 or unlucky 13, I guess.
Yeah, so it could go either way.
Yep.
But, I feel like this is going to be a great season because we have a great guest to start it off with.
Yes, we do.
It's been a bit since we said goodbye to season 12. And,
How long has it been? I don't even remember.
well, that's because it's been a bit. I don't know. Probably like a month or
Yeah,
something.
probably 4 or 5 weeks, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's a pretty long break for us, but it's necessary and it's exciting to be back and,
Well,
back.
before we get into, that, what have we been doing over the break?
Well, I have been, producing plays with my mobile dinner theater group because we decided to tackle three plays, at once for the summer. And it's been really, really busy and really difficult.
Yeah, I'm sure. So you have another one coming up in the end of August, I think you told me.
It's the 24th, 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks. I can't believe it.
How's the preparations going for that?
Oh, it's so exciting. Everything is looking good. The, so it's a living for the listeners. It's murder mystery that takes place in an art gallery. And rather than us making the art gallery with like a backdrop or props, things like that, we decided to do a live art gallery. So we have 10 local artists. So they're from all the tri counties. We have at least one artist representing, every county,
Hmm.
but 10 total. They're very diverse. Like some do stained glass, some do canvas painting, some do woodwork, some make jewelry. One lady is 90 years old and she makes jewelry and she's going to be there. And I can't wait for that. Illustrators, just like so many talents in the visual arts. So I'm very excited that we were able to get 10. And the jazz band is ready to go and local honey. So that's our London connection as far as, using the caterer.
Yeah.
They're going to serve up really great food. And then,
Sorry.
if that's not enough, then you get the show, the murder mystery. So with the fabulous costumes, it takes place in the 30s. So everyone will be dressing up in their favorite 30s attire. And,
Is that like the Great Gatsby era kind of
uh,
thing?
uh, it's actually the decade past that, but I expect that there will be a crossover so that some of the attire probably will look like that.
Okay.
So, and then some people may not choose to participate, of the guests that are coming,
Right.
and they may decide to dress up because we are saying it's a black tie affair. So I know it's a gala. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited about it. It's been a lot of fun promoting it and making little suspect cards. So, everybody's got their own suspect card because really, we can't tell who the
Right.
murderer is.
Could be
Right.
anybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's got a motive.
Yeah.
So,
Could even be the owner of Tri County Mystery Meats. Just saying.
you know, stranger things. But I do have my fascinator en route, so I'm hoping it gets here
I
because
don't know what that is.
yeah, so that's the like the headpiece that it like clips to the hair and it has like the little veil and a flower or feather, different like you can get them to look different ways, but
Okay.
with wore them on like this side of their head.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so and for the cast, they all had to either dress in all black, all white, or black and white with one splash color. So, it's going to be really just an elegant, interesting affair.
All right. Well, good luck with that. I want to hear how it goes in a couple weeks.
Well, I want a bubble machine. I'm still like trying to talk myself out of it and also into it
Oh my
because
God, like Lawrence Welk?
yes, the one thing I did love about that show, I love bubbles. Well, you know that, and
Yeah.
you know to see it like over by the jazz ensemble and then playing the jazz music and the
Mm-hmm.
bubbles,
Yeah.
all the arts. It's just gonna be so fun.
Yeah. That'll be interesting.
But also every component, does bring with it, you know, like the more different components you have, like the more things to worry about, going
Right.
wrong.
Yeah. Oh no, I forgot the bubble stuff.
That will not be the thing that goes wrong if I can convince myself. I mean, so as a business owner, I now think a lot about, things that I wouldn't think about just as a like
Like
guest.
like liability, somebody slipping and falling on a
Yeah, yeah,
bubble.
yeah. Also, or like, the venue, like would it damage
Right.
something and
Yeah. Yeah.
or things like that that I never thought about before. So, you know, the bubbles may not make it, but if they do, it would be beautiful for photos and
Sure.
such.
Sure.
So I'll be sure to like send you several video clips or,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, so you can see everything going on.
It'll
Oh,
be
that's
like
fun.
almost being there.
Well, that is sad that you can't be because I know you would not like dressing up for it, but
Yeah.
you would like the event itself.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a tough one. But anyway, so who's our guest this week?
Well, I mean, before that, I think we should say what you've been doing because you have quite the project going on too, which is almost like my project of, a million pieces. You
Yeah, yeah.
did.
It is literally a million pieces. So we are at work. I work at a biotech company, and we're installing two generators that generate hydrogen chloride gas from hydrogen chloride acid. So I'm designing and kind of running that project. And I was out in Pittsburgh recently. We had purchased a steel tower structure that was 60 feet high, and we had it taken down and shipped to the plant here in Pennsylvania and eastern Pennsylvania. And now we have to sort everything out, and we're going to send it to get sandblasted and painted, and eventually it'll be installed. But it won't be 60 feet high. It'll only be like 40 feet. So working on some of that and the million other details that have to be thought about and worked through before, you know, construction starts and, even after, like the process and the order in which things get done and, the safety aspects of it and stuff. So, there's a lot to it. So, yeah, I've been working on that pretty heavily. So,
So see, we really are like almost doing the same thing, just it's a little bit different, but we're
it's almost the same thing.
yeah. I mean, listening to you explain that, I was thinking like, it's very similar. Again, we're like,
Lots of moving parts, that's for sure.
yeah, exactly. And with lots of moving parts comes lots of stress, but
Yeah,
also
that's
lots
true.
of, like fulfillment. That would be the word.
Yes, fulfillment for me will be when we start bubbling gas into our processes from these generators.
Well, I want it to be like I want to have your name on the outside of it. So whenever people come there, they'll be like, Matt did that.
Yeah, we might get a plaque or something, the Matt
Well,
Memorial HCL Tower
not
installation.
memorial would mean you passed away, but
Well, I mean, I'm not going to be there forever, so, maybe they'll gift that to me when I leave that job.
yeah, but I was thinking more like John Deere Green,
Yeah. Yeah, like big
painted.
neon lights or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Might as well, like, you can't have the bubbles, so
Right.
you
Can
might,
see it from space or something.
yeah. Well,
We're actually in the flight path here for the airports in New York and New Jersey because, I'm only an hour and a half from Manhattan and, the planes fly over all the time. So we could put something up on the roof, maybe. We'll see.
Well, I'm all for that. So, if you need the podcast to help get that message out there, we'll come up with a good hashtag and we'll just start using it and we'll get your name in the lights or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. So speaking of hashtags, my son, Justin, reminded me about the website, backstorysessions.com. And, I'm going to encourage people to go over there and take a look at things. We'll be adding some things and, changing some things around here shortly as this season goes on. So, keep your eyes open and check that out if you get a chance.
Yeah. Well, today's guest, is a great start because Facts of Life, was a very popular show in our growing up years, I guess you could
Sure.
say.
Yeah.
And probably more, I don't know. I want to say probably more for girls, but I don't know. You may have loved it too because girls were on it.
I mean, I've seen episodes of it, yes, but I wouldn't say it was my favorite.
Well, it still had, a lot of memorable characters. And we are very fortunate to have one of those memorable characters. And, she was cousin Jerry, who was Blair's cousin on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's going to be really interesting. And, this is like very close to the American with Disabilities, that was signed, and they just had the anniversary of that not long ago. So it's really good timing she was groundbreaking, really, in that she was the first person with disabilities to have a recurring role on a sitcom. And, so very curious to see, what that meant to her and just how she got started in acting and also stand-up comedy. So,
Yeah, yeah, I do remember her on the show. I couldn't say for sure what some of the plots were or anything, but yeah, it's pretty cool.
well, what I did like, I mean, I guess I didn't think about it as much at that time, but in looking back on it now, what I like is that, she was portrayed as a person. So, I mean, of course, there was some of the disability dealt with in the very beginning, but after that, she just was as any of the other characters, with the good and the bad and all the things that come with being, a person, a character. So I liked that she wasn't, seen as like a stereotype. This is someone we need to like think can't accomplish anything or
Right, or tiptoe around the disability part of it or whatever.
I mean, and so in the beginning episode, when you're like first meeting her, there is some like Blair, of course, and that would be a character, you would expect to react as she did. But she was like, oh, no one's going to go out with her, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
All the girls would join in, like, yes, And so her solution is like, let's get this guy that's in a wheelchair. And, so their dialogue is like that. And, my mind now is like, really? Like, can you really, like, you could say that and nobody was offended or nobody, like, because obviously to think that only, that you have to be the same, abled, I guess,
Right. Yeah.
to be in a relationship is silly today. But many people still think that way. So, as far as we've come, I guess we're still like not far enough. But, anyways, this show, I think it was great that they did portray her in that way. And so, so early on in TV, like you just really, it's hard to imagine that it's been so, 40 plus years since that show was on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's been a while. That's for sure.
Yeah. Pretty groundbreaking. But I think that's the amazing thing is that we get to interview people again that are a part of the TV history.
Yeah. Yeah. She'll be, I don't know, 5 or 6 or maybe more that we've interviewed, I guess.
Yeah, and it's I just know she'll have a fascinating story, and I'm looking forward to hearing all about it.
Well, let's talk to Jerry and find out what the story is.
Let's do it. Gary, I want to welcome you to Backstory Sessions. It's really exciting to have you as our guest today.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Well, there's so many questions that I have for you, but I'd like to start with your backstory. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Orange County for the most part. I was born in Buffalo, New York. That was my first disability. Then we moved out to Lancaster, California. We lived in Gulf Grove, and I spent most of my childhood in Fullerton, Orange County, from I think it was age 9 through.
So, what was that transition like, or were you were pretty young, I guess, when you moved?
Well, my oldest brother blamed me for taking him away from Buffalo. Because I was diagnosed at UCLA, and at that time, they were the most progressive doctors in the hospital in diagnosing babies with birth defects. So basically, my whole family at that time, my 2 older brothers and my dad and mom, picked up and left New York for me. There was a lot of sacrifice. I mean, my dad worked for DuPont before he moved out here.
Well, so is that typical for CP that it gets diagnosed at an early age?
You should. I mean, the earlier the better because you can get early intervention. And I started school at 18 months old. And I
Yeah.
went to school 5 days a week year round.
Wow. So, what was school like, at 18 months? Like, what kinds of things are you working on?
Well, they put me in a school in Long Beach, California for just babies with CP, with cerebral palsy, not even other disabilities, just cerebral palsy. And basically, academically, we got a head start. My teacher, I had her for 5 years. Her name was Hazel Oles. And at that time, I learned how to walk, I had a lot of physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and I learned how to walk. I learned how to swim there before I even learned how to walk. So she believed in putting me in the pool. And that was the best thing she could have done.
That's very interesting. And so, what kinds of limitations, or how did it manifest that, that your parents were concerned, I guess, enough to take you to see if there was something wrong?
Well, because my mom knew intuitively there was something not right. I mean, I had a very traumatic birth. I was born at 6 months instead of 9, and I was put in an incubator for the first 3 months of my life. And so I had a lot of trauma during my birth, and they thought I was going to die then while I was still at the hospital. They had me, they called my parents at 4 o'clock in the morning, said, come down to the hospital, we'll get a priest, and we'll get her baptized because we don't think she's going to live till sunrise. Yeah.
But you did.
I did. Surprise, surprise.
Well, so you started early with the interventions, and it sounds like, that was really very advanced for the time period.
It was. The only thing that was wrong with it was that once you were in the special ed system, you couldn't get out. It was very difficult to get out. So I ended up being in special ed all through high school. I was integrated half-time in regular high school, and then I was fully included when I went to college. So I never really, you know, academically, it was difficult, but I had the best therapy you could ever have. I mean, I had speech therapy 2 days a week. I had occupational therapy 2 days a week, and I had physical therapy 2 days a week. So I was really therapy.
Yeah. Well, so being in special ed classes and then being integrated into the other classes, did you find there was a stigma attached to that?
Yes and no. I was excited because for the first time I got to go to school with the same school as my younger sister Gloria, and the same school that my brother Fred graduated from. And it was exciting to be included. I did not have great social skills, so that was something I had to learn. But teachers were incredible. I was blessed to have very good teachers in high school and college who pushed me and, made me work hard, even when I had gaps in my education. So, and the attitude was, you'll still have gaps if you don't try. Okay, I'll do it.
So, what were some of your favorite classes from high school?
I would have to say English and drama. Of course, I was in the drama class. And anything logical like math or science, forget it. If it was illogical and involved the other creative part of my brain, I enjoyed it. And I enjoyed history. I loved history.
Awesome. So, where does the comic part of you come from? Have you always been funny?
Holly. I came from a family who had a sense of humor. My mom had a sense of humor. We all did. I, I, and I started writing Carol Burnett when I was about 12 or 13, and she always wrote me back. And I told her that when I grew up, I wanted to be like her. I wanted to be a comedic actress, a writer. And she always told me never to quit, get into acting in every capacity. Told me there was no guarantee that I would become professional. There's no guarantees in life, period. The important thing is to put out the effort and to try. And that was very, very powerful coming from Carol Burnett.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, like, wow, that's very powerful to get for her to write you back, first of all, and then to give such, motivational advice.
Yes,
Was
she
she
did.
your favorite actress, comedian?
Yeah, I mean, I ordered tickets to the Carol Burnett show for the first time when I was about 16. And I went with friends of mine. I ordered 4 tickets. And actually, remember the episode where she did the spoof of Gone with the Wind?
In the curtains where she has,
Yes, I was
yeah.
in the front row audience that night, and I was about 16 or 17. That was when I first met her, the first time after writing her for many years prior.
Wow. Well, not many people can say they have had that experience. Wow. So you get through high school, you go to college. What is the plan? Are you thinking that you want to be an actress, or what is your career path like?
Well, my college was paid for by the Department of Rehabilitation of the state of California. And back then, they they had very strict rules. You know, they had a whole book on jobs that people with cerebral palsy were being hired for and what you could major in. And I thought it was stupid. And I kind of took a risk because I told my rehab counselor that I was an accounting major, a CPA, because it looked like there was a lot of people with cerebral palsy that had a degree in accounting. Even though I knew I sucked at math, but he thought, "Oh, that's good, Jerry." But what I was really doing was taking all theater classes. I didn't know. See, that comes from being in special ed for so long. I didn't know that state rehab would know what I was doing. And I got called into the office, and he was really angry with me. And he said, "What are you trying to pull?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "You are an accounting major. You're a CPA. Let me read some of the books you're buying with the state money. Movement for State, Monologues for Women, The History of World Theater, Beginning Lighting. What does that have to do with accounting?" I said, "Everything." And he rolled his eyes. "What do you mean by that?" I said, "I want to be an accountant in Hollywood, so I have to know the business, right?"
Mm, good point.
And he didn't buy
Yeah.
it. He asked for letters from all my teachers, and he fought for me, tried to get state rehab to finance it, but they wouldn't. They said either I change my major or
The
then they're
money's
not going to
gone.
support my education. So I changed my major to psychology. I didn't take any theater classes. I wanted to know why I was so attracted to theater. I moved over to psychology. Unbeknownst to me, I had to be good at math and psychology. And I was like, "Oh no."
Wow.
And I was going to college at the time with a young man named Alex Valdez, who was blind. And we were sitting together in the disabled services department. And I was really bummed out because I was flunking algebra for the third time. I was flunking anatomy and physiology. And I knew state rehab was not going to be happy with it. And, and Alex said, "What? Why do you feel so bad? What's going on here?" And I said, "Well, I don't even want to be here in college. I want to be in Hollywood. I want to be like Carol Burnett. I want to be like my idol. I want to be an actress. And he said, well, what do you do what I do? What do you do? I go to LA every week at the comedy store and tell blind jokes. I said, really? He said, yeah, go to the comedy store and tell cerebral palsy jokes. And at least you'll get your foot in the door in the industry. And the rest is history. I started doing comedy in 1978. And Norman Lear, I performed for him at the second annual Media Access Awards in 1980. And he came up to me after my show and he said, you're really funny, kid, but you're way before your time. And I said, so wait a couple months. And he actually did. 2 months later, he cast me on Facts of Life as Blair's cousin.
Wow.
So when you were doing the comedy did you do the cerebral palsy joke?
Some, not everything, not all of it. I mean, if you're just going to do cerebral palsy jokes, you aren't going to go for because people are not going. There are some people that are not going to be able to relate. And I remember Alec telling me early on that you can bring them into your world, but remember they don't understand CP, so don't stay there forever. Talk about current events, talk about the human condition, talk about, you can do cerebral palsy material, but not completely.
So did you like comedy? Did people find you funny were you nervous the first time that you went there and got on stage, or?
I was nervous as hell, but I got a standing ovation the first time I ever performed.
Oh, wow.
And then the following week I bombed. They hated me. So you never know, eh?
Yeah.
Only as good as your, last performance, I guess, and the next group may hate you. Wow. That's how did you deal with that? What was the third time like?
I don't remember.
They must have loved you again because you continued to do that.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I did pretty well. I mean, if I wouldn't have gotten as far as I did if I weren't funny most of the time.
Yeah. All right. So Norman Lear, I mean, that's quite an acquaintance to make. And is that what led to Facts of Life, or how did that happen?
Well, he wrote the story, and then the scriptwriters, Joel came on, and Gibbs wrote script, cousin Jerry. And I think the reason Norman cast me as Blair's cousin was because they had just, let a lot of the girls go after the first season. Remember, they had all those girls, including Molly Wingwall, and it was just too many girls. And then they had just hired Nancy McKeon, to balance out the four, Joe, Mindy, and so they couldn't bring another student in, which is unfortunate because it would have been brilliant to have a high school student with a disability in a private school. That would have been huge. But because they couldn't do that, Norman thought that the next best step was to make me a relative of Blair and that I could humanize her and give her a heart. Whereas before she was always stuck up and conceited and perfect. And this was to show Blair as vulnerable and loving. And my character was able to bring that out in her.
So I watched an episode of Facts of Life last night because I wanted to refresh, my memory of of watching the series. And in the episode, there's a party that's going to be happening that night, and you show up, and she's worried that, no one will like accept you at at this party, or you'll have a really bad time. Your character, of course. And
Are
so
we talking about the first episode, or did you watch another one?
I don't think it was the first one because, well, it seemed like that you had already been there because
Okay.
everybody knew you already. But so you end up going with the teacher, the popular teacher.
Oh,
So it's that,
you.
yeah, that episode. But, I found the dialogue, like, I guess it was kind of shocking to me because it's been so long since, I originally watched the series. But, her idea was to call someone in a wheelchair, and that would be like the match for you. And the other girls, except for Joe, they were all agreeing with it and saying, yes, like some guys might not accept her. So, we do need to like find someone else with a disability to like, make this work. And then of course, the joke ends up being that, you and the teacher are together, and you're perfectly happy, and all, then because Blair was going to be sick and, just not go, rather than tell you that, that you she wasn't going to go because nobody would accept you. So socially, I mean, do you did you find that was ever the case in real life, that people thought you couldn't find love, or it had to be with someone else that had CP or some disability? I mean,
I
was
don't
that
think
real
it,
life?
I don't think it was discussed one way or another. I didn't date at all really until much later. I mean, I never dated in high school. I didn't date in college. I didn't date until I got to Hollywood. So I kind of was a child in a way, going through stuff that most people, at 23, I was probably emotionally, probably 15, 14.
Yeah. Well, how did you adapt to that? Like socially, what was your first move to like get, a boyfriend, or to see what that was like?
Yeah, a little personal, I would think.
Well, I
Oh,
mean, just in
Lord.
general, like,
What show am I on right now?
Yeah,
oh,
Well,
jumped all in, huh? Like,
yeah. Let's move on, Kat.
yeah, okay. Well, I did find this very fascinating, because this was a really important character for people with disabilities to be seen as, a person, just like everyone is a person, but oftentimes
well,
not.
I can think of someone who's not.
Oh, do tell.
That's another episode.
Well, I think we all have a few of those people, but you know, I think that it was groundbreaking for the time, but also it showed you. I love the way that you played the character, and just made her like really relatable, and you got to keep your own name. So
Well, I didn't like that, truthfully. I wanted to be a different name, but uh, and then jumped 30 years later, and I was cast in Deadwood as Jewel. So they used her name again. So I'll probably get another series when I let the producers know what my middle name is.
Yeah. It does seem like it works that way for you. I mean, that's pretty ironic that you get your names like that. So, what was it like for Deadwood? That's quite a jump.
It was.
Did you like that character?
I love that character. I wrote the backstory for that character.
Oh, wow. How did
Um,
that come to be? How did you get to,
well, what a lot of people don't know is I broke my neck in '99, and my neck is now 45% titanium from C1 to C5. And I honestly did not think I had a career left after that because it was a hard recovery. I was a wheelchair user for about a year. I had to learn how to use the CP body differently without my neck moving, and it was very, very, very hard. It still is. I'm going to have issues for the rest of my life because the brain still has cerebral palsy and it's sending messages to move my head all over the place, and my neck is going, no, I can't do that anymore. uh, but anyway, to handle the chronic pain that I'm in is that I get 3 vials of Botox injected in my neck, shoulders, and back every 3 months.
wow.
Because if I didn't have that, I don't know how I could function. But one day in 2003, I needed to pick up Botox at the pharmacy and deliver it to the doctor. And I was in a lot of pain. I couldn't even get dressed properly. I decided, oh, it's 8:30 in the morning. Nobody's gonna care. Nobody's gonna recognize me at 8:30 in the morning. So I went to the pharmacy in my pajamas with a jacket on, no makeup. I was in a lot of pain. And this man turned around. He said, oh my God, Geri Jewell. And I didn't even want to admit I was who I was. And I said, yeah, it's me. And he said, well, I'm a huge fan of yours. And I said, well, thank you, sir. I watched you on TV for years. I love your comedy. You've inspired me. And what's going through my head when he's giving me those compliments was, oh, yeah, that light. And he said, but I haven't seen you on TV in a long time. What are you doing with your life now? I said, Botox. And he said, no, seriously. And I said, seriously, I'm doing Botox. And he said, do you want a television series? And I said, no, wait a minute. I'm in a pharmacy, not in a casting office. No, it's not nice to play with someone's mind in a pharmacy. Come on. And he said, in case you don't recognize me, my name is David Milch. And my mouth just fell open. I thought, oh my God, the executive producer of NYPD Blue? He said, yep. And I said, well, Mr. Milch, I'm flattered that you love my work and you believe in me, but let's get real. I would make a shitty cop. And he said, no, I just signed a contract with HBO last week. I'm doing a new Western called Deadwood. You want to do a Western? And I looked up as far as my titanium neck would let me. And I said, God, you have a real quirky sense of humor. I mean, I'm standing here with cerebral palsy and chronic pain in my pajamas with a titanium neck, and David Milch wants me to ride a horse. And he asked the pharmacist for a sheet of paper, and she handed him a prescription pad for an antidepressant. And that was very symbolic because he put his phone number on a prescription for an antidepressant, which was an antidepressant because it's offering me employment.
Yeah.
And I was the first person cast on Deadwood even before Ian McCain. cast personally by David Milch.
That's quite of a story. I had no idea of that.
Yep.
I mean,
Well,
it seemed like incredible things happened to you, like with meeting people. That's just all very, do you believe like that happens by chance, or is it fate, or
it's not by chance at all. If if we can get out of our own ways, we're guided. And I'm very, very spiritual. I always have been. I'm not religious, you know, but I'm very, very spiritual, and I embrace all people. And that that's all I can say on it, is that I have a purpose. I believe in a higher power. I believe that we are attracted to what we put out there is going to come back to us. In other words, if we put out negativity, then we get negativity back. If we put out our self-esteem and our expectations and, you know, our dreams, and hold on to that vision, they'll come through. Not always the way we want them to, and not always when we want them to, but my life is really full. I can't complain.
well, and you have Jerry's Jewels and Gems. That is a collection of columns that you wrote for Ability Magazine and a lot of different photos that, as I understand it, you chose. So did you choose photos? Like, what was your, you know, how did you go about looking through the photos and deciding what you were going to include?
Eh, it was, it was in 2020, and we were in lockdown and dealing with COVID, and everybody's scared, and there's so much division in this country, blah, 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 blah. And I am dealing with a lot of chronic pain, new pains on my lower back and leg. And so I can't get out there as much as I used to perform on stage live the way I used to. And I thought, you know, I want to inspire, I want to make people laugh. How can I do that without going out and doing it? And I thought about the articles that I wrote for Ability Magazine. So I approached Jack Cooper, the editor of Ability, and I said, can I do a coffee table book with these columns? And he said, yes, as long as you give Ability Magazine credit. And of course I will, because he took the time to hire me. He read my autobiography in 2011. He was so impressed with my writing that he asked for me to write for Ability Magazine. So, like I said, nothing is accident. Everything happens for a reason. And as I'm reading these articles today, I realize they're just as important, and they apply today just as much as they applied then. The photos, I just picked photos that I made me feel good and kind of represented some of the columns. Like there was, I think they put a picture of my sister Gloria, and then a photo of me with Bob Hope, and the article was called "Hope and Glory." That's that was my thinking, and it was a way. The book also was cathartic and allowed me to heal the pain of losing my sister in 2017, cancer. So yeah, so it's a great book. I'm really excited about it, and so far I've gotten a lot of good compliments on it. And I have a book launch going on Wednesday. Uh, God, that's tomorrow, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where does time go?
So will you be signing books and meeting fans.
Yeah, and they're interviewing me at the Grove, at the Barnes and Noble, so it'll be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
So
So,
I'm curious. What do you have on the horizon? Any more books, or you have any acting gigs that you want to do? Or
Well, I am in the middle of writing another book, a children's book about a monkey named Buck. So, and I'm writing that for my sister. It was my sister's book initially, and she was really upset that she couldn't finish the book before she passed. And I promised her on her bedside that I would finish the Buck book for her. And it's about a monkey named Buck. So I'm doing that, and I'm writing another. I'm walking us through the can, the continuation of that book.
mm-hmm.
And I've written a forward for a couple of other books, and I love writing. I enjoy writing. I'll be performing again. I don't know how, I don't know when, never did.
Right.
I just walk in somewhere, hey, we're looking for you.
Next time you go to the grocery store, you never know.
Well,
signing tomorrow.
Yeah, there you go.
I had dinner last week with Lisa Russell, so it was really wonderful to come together with her again and have a reunion of sorts.
Oh, wow.
And
cool.
yeah, we had a good time. We had a wonderful time.
Do they do like Facts of Life reunion kind of things? I know they do it for other shows like Walton's.
I don't know. I did a show, Collector's Call. She had a show on MTV. I did that. It was collection of Charlotte Rays, and I had a QZ that belonged to Charlotte. That Charlotte had given me. So I was on the show as well. And there might be a Fact of Life reboot. I don't know. Who knows? But yeah, whatever will be, I'll take it. I mean, I was on Glee. I did one episode of Alcatraz. I was supposed to be a reoccurring character on that, and that would have been a blast.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it only lasted one season.
Yeah. All right, Kat.
So,
I'm gonna let you ask one more question, Kat, before we let Geri go.
Oh my goodness! So I always get the last question. It's always so hard because I hate to end the interview, but celebrity crush. That's gonna be my last question. Throughout your career, have you met anyone that you had a crush on, or who was your celebrity crush?
oh, everybody knows who my celebrity crush was. It was David Cassidy.
Yeah. Mine was Sean, so it was on.
Mine was Lori Partridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we're all around the same age.
Yeah.
Well, it's been so nice.
Thank you for having me on the show, and I wish you guys the best. And thank you.
Oh, anytime you can come back and talk to us.
Thank you. I'll let Holland know that.
It's been fun for sure. All right. Yeah. So, yeah, as I said, anytime you can come back and, drop in, say hello, whatever. Let us know when the books come out, and we'd be happy to get into some of that and hear some more of your stories. It's been a lot of fun.
Okay. All right. Well, have a beautiful evening. It's later there. Have a beautiful evening, you guys.
Thank you so much. You as well.
Your book.
All right.
Right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.